topics that will run with us throughout the CISSP exam, throughout the questions, all questions, and you will always need to have them in front of you. You know, when you think about the questions that you need to deal with, are this 5. Everything starts with human safety, okay? Human safety is number 1. So think about it this way. If you have that speaks about fire in your data center, and potentially you can have a technician there, right there at that time, you know, someone someone that is there to do a repairman or, you know, some sort of a support. And this guy is there, you have the fire hazard. The first thing and the only thing that you care about now, you know, immediately, is to get that guy out of the data center, because you don't want that guy to get harmed in any way, shape, or form. Okay, so human safety is the first and foremost, most important thing throughout the CISSP. After we saved life, after we protected everybody, and they're not in danger of any harm to their own, then we can do everything else on security. Then we can think about how to be ethical and how to, you know, to do the right thing and to make sure the right things are done. Then we need to think like, you know, business people, maximize profits and minimize losses. And this is the order you need to think about. Last but not least, a rule of thumb throughout the CISSP: every control must be justified. Okay, every control must be justified. And what does that mean? It means that any control, user awareness training, technical control, EDR, or data classification, procedural control, information security policy, or some sort of procedure, access procedure, remote access procedure, work from home procedure. Every control must be justified. This is my experience, and this is everybody's experience that I previously trained. And we came back from those exams, and this is exactly what we understand. So in order for you to benefit from everyone that took the exam before you, you need to consider this. I need to hit the 100 questions within 2 hours. All right, guys? 2 hours. I don't want you to think that you have 3 hours for the exam. You only have 2 hours. And with this pace, you will need to take the 50-question exam in 1 hour. Remember that? You have that in the class marker. You have the exam of 50 questions. Take it within 1 hour. Cover that. Work on the pace, not on the volume, but on volume. Okay? Now, the way I want you to approach the exam, once you enter the exam center and you start your exam, I want you to have a timer inside your head. A timer inside your head that tells you, okay, I know I can cover 50 questions within, I don't know, let's say 1 hour. All right. So I take my break after 1 hour. Even if I feel comfortable enough to continue the exam, I don't do that. Okay? I want you to write it down and remember this. Set the pace, your pace, when you enter the exam. Because if you keep that pace, your body, your brain knows, okay, I'm about to take a break within 10 minutes, within 8 minutes, okay? And that's a good one, because breaks are on you. You have to, this is your time. That the easier your exam becomes, the farther you go from your CISSP. Does that make sense? So if the questions are getting easier, that means that you're getting farther and farther from passing your CISSP exam. When the questions become harder, that's where I need you to remember that you are that close to pass the CISSP exam. So don't despair, don't lose it when you sit there. You sit there for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and it's insane. You're taking 130 questions already, and it's getting harder. Know that the next one can be the last one. And this is it. You're almost there. Okay? So it's a lot of psychology throughout the exam, and that's something you really need to consider as you sit there. As you answer the exams, don't think like a technical person. Never. No matter how it sounds right on the technical side, technology will solve everything. If you do that, you don't think like a manager. And to become a CISSP, the first and most important thing ISC is testing is to see that you can be a strategist. You can be a senior manager. You can be an executive. Okay? ISC do not look to certify technicians. They look to certify executives. And if you want to be a CISSP, you need to think like an executive. Okay? Constantly throughout the exam. Technologies will not solve everything. People come first. Human safety. We set the right procedures. Technology bring process to life. All these things, they need to be part of your DNA as you take the exam. Executive thinking. Okay, that's really, really important. Scenario-based questions, and this is something I want you to write down on this slide. Take your pen, take that slide and write it down. The objective of scenario-based questions is to waste my time. Okay? Seriously, I want you to remember this as you see those scenario-based questions. The objective of scenario-based questions is to waste my time. When you see a scenario-based question, you will need to excel your ability to deal with the immense amount of information that they throw in there. Okay? So to dealing with scenario-based question is to know immediately how to separate the wheat from the chaff. Okay, how to choose the areas that are interesting to us and that are relevant for us to passing the exam. We're not interested in this scenario. We're not interested in the organization. We're not interested in their plan unless it's important to answer the question and get the CISSP. Unless it's important for my goal, okay? And my goal, my objective is to pass the CISSP exam. So to deal with the scenario-based questions, you will need practice, and more practice between now and your exam. To know how to read it, to know how to separate those areas. Some practice and a lot of practice. Scenario-based questions are there to waste your time. Know this as you enter the game, okay? I feel like I'm a team coach, preparing you for a game, letting you know how the opponent looks like, and you're gonna meet them for the first time, and I want you guys to win. You can do this because others did. CIA on one side and the DAD on the other side. CIA versus DAD. Okay? Confidentiality versus disclosure. So you can get questions about disclosure of information. In your mind, you will need to immediately address the confidentiality controls. Does that make sense? Okay? When they ask you about disclosure of information, boom, trigger the confidentiality control. When they ask you about destruction of process, boom, availability control. Okay? Data modification or database modification, alteration. Okay? Boom, integrity controls. I want to make sure that the alteration was not something that was not meant to take place. Okay? The modification of the data was done by the right subjects on the right object, and I can audit that as well. All right, this is really, really important because this is basic of the CISSPs, the CISSP governance. This one can be very, very tricky in the CISSP, and this one we see a lot of questions around that, a lot of questions from students, people that are facing this in the questions and don't fully understand what is what. It's called the due care and due diligence. I'll try to make it easy for you to remember, but you guys need to, trying to find a way to fully understand this because it's not just to remember. Okay, I don't want you to waste your memory on this. This can be easily understandable if you follow the right process. So, due care and due diligence. I want you to think when you hear the word due, think of the word duty. Okay, the duty to care, the duty to be diligent. The duty to care is for everyone in the organization. Everybody needs to care about security. Okay? The duty to be diligent is for senior management, executive management. Yes, we all want to be diligent. We all want to be thorough with what we do. But the duty to be diligent in our organization is on the table of executive management, senior management. The difference between awareness training and education is this. Awareness is for everyone in the organization, and the more the merrier. Okay, maybe you want to write it down somewhere.
So,
Awareness for everyone, the more the merrier. Training is specific training, security training for specific part of the organization. So we're not telling them something they don't know. We're just enhancing specific areas of the business. Okay? And education is building a new skill set for people in security. Okay?
so,
Yep.
so I would also add like contractors and stuff like that under the awareness. For
Come again?
instance, I would also add contractors
Yep. Yep.
into the awareness tab. For instance, if
Yes.
contractors comes into your environment, make them
Right.
aware of the security so that they know what they should and should not do.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you, Valentino. Contractors, third parties, we all want them to be aware because we want to create a secured culture. Okay? So this is done through awareness. Perfect. And great point that you mentioned that, Valentino, because the word everyone is the beginning of this, okay? Everyone is literally everyone, okay? Not just our users, all right?
Yeah.
Are we all good with this? Because this is important. This is important. Not a whiteboard, but this is important, okay? They keep asking questions about the differences of the three. As you walk into your CISSP exam, this will be one of the first things you put on the whiteboard. Why? Because all risk management questions can come down to this. I will risk it and even say that any question of the CISSP can be brought to this one slide. If I'm to choose one slide that will represent everything that I know about CISSP, this will be it. Because questions can start with impact or probability. They can start with a threat inside the probability. They can start with the risk and talk about risk materialization, and I need to figure out now the probability and impact. They can talk about quantitative impact, which means a quantitative risk. And this is something we will practice soon enough today. They can talk about the need for physical controls with the absence of those controls in that risk environment. And I will need to figure out the risk itself and how those controls can minimize the vulnerability or can close part of the vulnerabilities and then minimize the probability, hence minimize the risk level. You see where I'm going with this? Every question of the CISSP can be brought to this one slide and the risk formula. What it says is very simple. Every risk is built of two variables, two components, impact on one side and probability on the other. If you want to quantify them, we multiply impact and probability, and that's how we get to the risk level. The total risk of the organization is the multiplication of the threats times vulnerabilities, which is the probability that we saw, and the assets value, overall assets value, which is our impact. Do you see that? Do you see the formula, the risk formula here?
Yeah.
All right. So if we control this part, vulnerabilities, and we bring it down, we bring down the total risk, right? This is a given situation, we don't control it. This is a given situation by the organization. So this is the area we want to control. How do we control it? Controls, physical, administrative, and technical controls. All right? Now, take a look at this risk here, this yellow dot here, all right? Shachar, are you with me?
Yes.
I know that you're writing it. I love it, but I just really need you to focus on this. Take a look at this yellow dot here, all right? When I invest in bringing down its probability, I maybe invest in, I don't know, more redundancy or more whatever. I invest in it. That's why we call it control gap. I mitigate the gap, okay? I invest in this risk and I invest in the controls that it had. See how the impact is not changed, right? The impact, the asset value is still the same, but the probability is down in such way that this risk now is in the risk acceptable zone. Okay, the risk appetite zone. Do you see that? All right, again, the risk was here. We invested in probability controls. We mitigated the control gap that we had here. Okay, and we brought the risk down to an acceptable level. All right? So the residual risk that we now have is that total risk that we mapped up there minus the controls gap. So every single risk that we implemented controls in is taken under consideration to bring us down to the residual risk. And the residual risk is the risk that we monitor. Okay, we keep looking at it, making sure it doesn't increase more than what we can accept. All right? Now, look at the picture that we have here. When we say configuration management, this is one step before change management. Okay, so bear with me for a second. As I do what I do in my business, this is the ongoing, this is the routine, this is what we do, okay? We always, we work in a car manufacturing facility, okay? And we keep manufacturing white cars, okay? And you, as the CEO, you walk up every morning, you walk to your balcony and you look at the parking lot and you see white cars beautifully created by your factory, right? You wake up one morning and you look at all the white cars and somewhere in the middle of your parking lot, you see a red car. What is this? Don't we just manufacture white cars? So manufacturing your white cars is your configuration. You do configuration management for white cars. The red car is the anomaly. You call the factory manager and this guy tells you, oh, yesterday we had a special order. We had a request for change. That's why we needed to produce one red car. Okay, that's the easy example I can give you. Now you can take it anywhere you want in your organization, in your data management, asset security. You have the need for a change in configuration management. So all I want you to remember is this whiteboard. I want you to remember two words: blood and bibadoo. Say it with me, please.
Blood, bibadoo.
Blood, bibadoo.
Carlo, I cannot hear you, man.
Blood,
Blood and
Blood.
bibadoo, but why?
But why? Hang on a second. Let me explain. This is my
Why?
part. You do blood and bibadoo, and I'll do the explanation, all right?
Blood
When
and
you get
bibadoo.
those questions, you need to remember the matrix. This is a very easy matrix, 4 bricks. Okay, the matrix goes this way. Okay, you have a line here and a line here, right? Blood stands for bella padula, no read up, no write down. Bibadoo stands for biba, no read down, no write up. All right, do you see that?
Okay.
So the NR ABC, NR comes first, NR, and then NW. And what you do in your exam is just you simply write blood and bibadoo. UD for Bella Padula, NRU, NWD. And for Biba, NRD and NWU. Okay?
you don't literally write blood, do you?
What's that?
I say you don't literally write blood. It's hypothetically.
No, right. It's not blood with double O, but it's blood. It's to get
but
you
I mean-
guys to remember it, man. I'm all about your memory. I'm trying to give you the keys to success. Again, this came back to me from Indonesia, not too long ago, from a guy that got this slide and said, "This helped me pass my exam," because up until that point, I couldn't remember the Biba and Bella Padula and the whole explanation in the book, which is such a waste of time. It is a waste of time to try to understand the 4-star general, the 5-star general, the whole decision-making process. I need to answer the questions. Answering the questions using these 2 words, blood and bibadoo, will give you the points you need to pass the CISSP.